Many of you may remember, I hope you remember, because we really pushed this. Earlier this year, we talked a lot about the World Zionist Congress. Do you recall this? We talked a lot about voting and why it was so important to vote in the World Zionist Congress elections and to vote for the reform slate specifically. We did lots of campaigning about what it could be, but at the time, it was theoretical. And we were hoping that we would be able to put the things that we wanted to put to fruition, and we asked for your vote for the reform movement to send as many delegates as possible to Jerusalem in October to make a difference in the future of Israel. It happened. It was in October, and one of our beloved members, Dimitra Dimopoulou, was there and was part of the reform delegation to represent the reform movement at the World Zionist Congress. And we are so blessed and honored to hear a report back from what happened in Jerusalem. What did you do in Jerusalem? So I'm going to invite Dimitra Dimopoulou up to share with us what happened.
So, it's wonderful to be here. Shabbat Shalom. I came back from Israel a week ago and back into the loving arms of my family, my 12-year-old daughter Maria, my husband Dan. And I'm thinking back to when we moved to Boston 5 years ago. We made a transition from Pennsylvania to Boston in a really kind of special time. It was the middle of COVID, and life was very different back then, and a lot has changed. But a lot has stayed the same, and I'm very grateful that I can stand before you tonight as much a member of this community as we became even online. So, in other words, we joined Temple Israel online for the first year, and we still felt so much a part of this family that it's the same today. Deeper, but the same. So, as a way of introduction, I'm on the International Leadership Committee of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, which is a network of all the Reform congregations in the entire world. In some cases, these congregations are tiny. They are in far-flung places. Some are very ancient. But if you can imagine, there are Reform Jews that are like family to us because we are Reform Jews who are in India, for example, small communities in India, small communities in China, bigger communities in South Africa, larger communities in France, a tiny community on the island of Cyprus, which is Greek-speaking, which is part of my heritage. My parents came from Greece. So it's all very international, and that's what I love. Last month, the World Union for Progressive Judaism, the WPJ, gathered for its biennial conference in Jerusalem, and we were from 28 different countries. I'd love to tell you more about that sometime. However, the WPJ was done up one. The World Zionist Congress that I attended a week later had Jews from 42 different countries. And I'm so proud and humbled by the fact that I was able to be one of those delegates, 525 delegates, who gathered in Jerusalem in order to meet for the 39th time since 1897 and do what Jews have done for a long time, argue. Okay. So, just so you can picture it, the U.S. Reform delegation consisted of 66 people, including a record number of observers and alternates, and were joined by Reform delegates from Artseinu, which is the international arm of the Reform movement Zionist Association, and as I said before, the World Union for Progressive Judaism. So I was a delegate from the WPJ. Combined, we were over 150 Reform delegates from around the world. And rather than just tell you what happened, besides an amazing success, I wanted to introduce the whole scenario by asking and answering, what do Reform delegates to the World Zionist Congress do? They uphold Reform Zionist values, like religious equality across all Jewish denominations and across all religions, combating racism, discrimination, and hatred in all its forms, fighting for LGBTQ rights and women's rights, standing up for what is right and not being afraid to be loud about it. And though the road may seem long, Reform Zionists hope for a two-state solution for two peoples. Reform Zionism is idealistic, along with the global reform movement in general and the Israeli reform movement in particular. Reform Zionism is so idealistic that we take the founding documents of the State of Israel as our literal guideposts. So, as an unexpected turn, I will introduce some words from the Declaration of the State of Israel written in 1948. The State of Israel will foster the development of the country for the benefit of all its inhabitants. It will be based on freedom, justice, and peace, as envisaged by the prophets of Israel. It will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. It will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. So, coming from the World Zionist Congress, the one that was created back in 1897 to create a homeland for the Jewish people, I want to tell you that, as you know, no state lives up to every word of its Declaration of Independence or every word of its Constitution. Some people have rightly observed that Israel's current government has made grave mistakes. And some of those people think that Jews should be beyond Zionism. So I faced the quandary. I thought, if I'm a delegate coming back from the World Zionist Congress and I'm using the term Zionism, I think I should talk about Zionism. So I'd like to tell you that we are not beyond Zionism. As a delegate, I learned that the World Zionist Congress is exactly what and who we are, and that's why we're not beyond it. Jews across 6 continents, and as I mentioned, 42 countries, representing about 15.8 million people. We delegates were not beyond Zionism because the World Zionist Congress is in fact the Global Jewish People's Congress, the only democratically elected body of the entire Jewish population, which convenes every 5 years to do what Jews have always done, which we already talked about, argue. So, we continue a tradition that did not actually start at the first Zionist Congress 128 years ago in Basel, Switzerland. And by the way, there were only men at that Congress. Women made sure that at the second Zionist Congress, 1 year later, there were women present. We have argued way before that with God from the time Yaakov fought with the angel and was afterwards named Yisrael, meaning one who wrestles with God. We wrestle with God. We argue with each other. We are never satisfied. The secret is not only that we will never be satisfied as Jews. The bigger secret is that as Reformed Jews, we should never be satisfied. Being on the ground in Israel last month, the 4th time since October 7th, 2023, made me realize that Zionism for me is being united in our Judaism, in our Jewish peoplehood, by at least 2 things: a 3,000-year history, a tradition a religion that calls us all to listen, Shema, to listen with a capital L, to listen in the most profound sense of the word. And secondly, we are bound up with each other as a people, past, present, and future. However much we argue, and we debated a lot at this World Zionist Congress, I can tell you, committee work is really challenging. Even when the committee, by the way, is called Resilience and Healing, you still argue about it. So however much we argue, however much our politics clash, however much we struggle even with the word Zionism, we as Jews are not beyond Zionism, and we never will be. We are not beyond Zionism because we choose to be part of a big tent. As a Reformed Jewish movement, we are not beyond being in relationship with more than half of the world's Jewish population, which lives in the state of Israel. So, as delegates in Jerusalem, we were there to debate and vote on resolutions that had everything to do with us as a people who are not arbitrarily divided by the borders of the 42 countries from which we came. The 525 delegates were organized into 10 different committees. In these committees, we argued and made amendments to and passed over a dozen resolutions. So, I'm here to report from Israel that as Reformed Jews who voted to make this possible, our wins were huge. Absolutely, unbelievably huge, I'm happy to report. And that is why, as a global Reform community, I want to tell you that at the 39th World Zionist Congress, Zionism was not beyond us. We have an impact on Zionism, we had an impact on Zionism, and we will have an impact on Zionism because our Reform values matter. So, what did we achieve? This is what happened. We secured security for liberal Jewish communities in Israel, which had been attacked by the right-wing by Israeli Jews in the right wing who thought that Reform Judaism and conservative Judaism did not deserve equal rights. We insisted upon transparency and equal opportunity budgeting for the national institutions. That's a whole other sermon in itself. But basically, we wanted to extend values of transparency and justice to the Congress. We also strengthened youth movements and informal education in the diaspora. Those were resolutions proposed by Reform communities. And you might see a handout after the service. You have the handout, so why am I the only one reading from it? Sorry. One thing I just want to say is that it was quite contentious. There were Jews on the right wing who did not want to stay in the room when we talked about our Reform Zionist values of prohibiting investment in settlements in the West Bank, in E1. And so, as Reformed Jews from all over the world, 150 of us, along with our coalition partners, we stood up and we sang and we gave voice to our values. And as an entire Congress, we voted down things like the extension of sovereignty over the Temple Mount. We voted down the extension of sovereignty over the West Bank. And I mention this because I know that Jews disagree politically on a lot of things, but as Reformed Jews, we do share values that I think can extend beyond the politics. The key to making sure our resolutions have teeth is to make sure that they translate into real budget allocations and real implementation on the ground. So what does that mean? The World Zionist Congress has funds, about $1 billion a year, in fact, through the World Zionist Organization, that gives money to institutions within Israel and in the diaspora that address the needs of the Jewish people. We have a team, all of us here have a team of fellow Reform Jews in Israel who are making these things a priority. So let's not leave them in the lurch. I encourage each and every one of you to get to know not only what we achieved, the resolutions themselves, but to get to know our closest partners in Israel, the Israeli Reform Movement and the Israeli Reform Action Center, because they're fighting for our values, and that means that we have an impact. Israeli Reform Jews, I learned, they're not just partners, they're not just organizations, they are individuals. Reform Jews in 54 congregations who open their synagogues to any Jew from anywhere in the world and show hospitality, even when they are hurting. Just like Abraham was hurting and showed his hospitality with Sarah for the 3 men, the 3 messengers, the 3 angels who visited his tent. Just like Abraham was vulnerable at that moment, just as he was healing, Israelis are still healing. I had the amazing privilege of being in Hostage Square in Tel Aviv less than 3 weeks ago on October 13th when the remaining 20 living hostages were released from Hamas captivity. And I will not forget, as we already discussed tonight, we will not forget the pain that is still being endured. There is pain on all sides. Specifically now, I'm asking us to extend our hands to help Jewish Israelis who are suffering, and then see that not as an either or. So, for those of you who are doubting me or arguing with me in your heads right now, I want to assure you that in the midst of all the politics, each and every one of you has friends from all political leanings in Israel who support your individual values and our collective reform values. So, let's not disconnect. Let's not choose to be beyond Zionism. Let's engage. Let's argue. Let's work together to make the world a better place. Let's work with Jews and non-Jews alike to work even beyond the resolutions that we have in hand and that we achieved. Let's work together to improve the lives of Jews and non-Jews alike. Israelis, Jews, Palestinian Israelis, all of them actually, and I've experienced this, are good at giving hugs. So, please, I ask you, let us embrace our Israeli Reform family. Let's hug them. Let's let them know that we are in this with them for the long term, because we are family. All 15.8 million of us in all 42 countries, including here and including in Israel. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. Yesher Koach. Yesher Koach. Yesher Koach. Dimitra, we were so proud to have you representing us and knowing that you as a force in all of the people who were there. So thank you for sharing your experience. And I know that one of the other pieces of what happened were the coalitions, and that the way that the people who were in the liberal community joined together, even though they might not have been part of the reform movement, but part of a liberal coalition, and that made the difference too. So we, our family, means that we can all work together. and that makes a big difference. And so thank you for your words, and thank you for your insights, and thank you for your work, and thank you to all those who are part of our community who also worked to get Dimitra there, even though Rabbi Oberstein and I were also on the slate, but we didn't get to go there, but we're not bitter.
It's okay.
Because you did, and that's what makes all the difference. And we'll get another chance in 5 years, so that's also what we're going to keep working. And I think you said that they've already started to work on the slate.
The campaign for 2030 starts tonight.
Yeah.
So, no, and I will echo that. Hello. I will echo that it was a broad coalition. It was not just the reform movement, and it was really heartwarming to see us as conservative Jews, Reform Jews, and others who uphold our similar values working together. So thank you.
Thank you so much.